the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast, where your financial journey takes flight with David T.U. As an airline pilot and financial expert, David merges the aviation industry and wealth management to help you navigate today's complex financial skies. Each episode features expert insight, blending personal stories with essential financial strategies. We ask that you fasten your seatbelts and sit back as we prepare for takeoff. Our destination, your financial empowerment.
Welcome to the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast. I'm your host, David T.U., and today we're excited to have Jill Brickel as our guest. Jill is a certified public accountant, personal financial specialist, and president of Brickell and Company, PA, CPAs consultants and business managers, bringing extensive expertise in tax consulting, personal financial planning, and optimizing wealth strategies. So with that in mind, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us, Jill.
Well, thank you for having me, David. I appreciate it.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's really fantastic to have you here. So let's get started. Can you share your journey in the world of accounting and financial services? What inspired you initially to become a CPA?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks again. I guess it takes me back from my education at University of Florida. And when I started there, I was actually a marketing major. And I took my first accounting class and I aced it. I got 100 on the exam. And apparently this was a really hard class that everybody really had a hard time with. And my professor approached me and asked me what my major was. And when I shared with him that it was marketing, he strongly suggested that I consider switching it. So I took a couple more classes that would qualify for both. And I had some advice along the way and decided to change it, that I would be better off with an accounting degree, as it clearly came easy to me. And then I started taking tax classes and I really enjoyed it. And I ended up taking my master's, went into the master's program at UF and specialized in tax and really, really loved it. And that's when I went on and started, like you said, KPMG and Pricewaterhouse. And, the big firms were really fantastic for teaching you, procedures and the basics and really training you, and invaluable training, and made a lot of contacts, learned a lot. But I also learned what I didn't want to do, which is staying in a big firm. I learned early on I wanted to start my own practice. And so over time, I went to work after working, I think about 3.5 years for the big firms. I went and worked for smaller firms and started building my practice on the side while working for smaller CPA firms down in the South Florida area. And I slowly built up my practice and weaned myself off of the other professionals that allowed me to work with them, and gained some great knowledge and some great contacts in the South Florida community. I worked everywhere from West Palm Beach down to Miami and everything in between. And now a lot of my clients are, it's just been built up over time. It's been 26 years. And a lot of my clients are all over the country and some are international. And a lot of it is just built on that foundation. So, yeah, it's been great.
Wow. Very impressive, Jill. Very impressive.
Thank you.
So you specialize in tax consulting and personal financial planning.
I do.
How do you approach these areas that are very differently from small to mid-sized companies versus, say, high net worth individuals, especially in the entertainment industry?
Right. No, excellent question. So a lot of my training initially started in the corporate world. So I dealt with a lot of partnerships and corporate and different subsidiaries and large consolidated groups. And it was both in real estate and entertainment. They seemed to kind of interchange. And a lot of what we would do, because most of it were partnerships, and flow through entities, you always had to look at the individual and what was happening. And to me, it was way more interesting to think, of how I can help somebody really minimize that tax when everybody was really focused on those big companies. But really all that mattered was how was it coming down to your bottom line. So then it started leading me to really look into the financial planning aspect of learning, one, how to minimize taxes, but then how to protect those assets, how to better position yourself, how to grow that wealth. What strategies can we work with? And that's, one reason, of course, that brought me to meet with you, David, because you guys really do a fantastic job of that, of working with me and my colleagues of what are the best strategies that we can employ to really help our clients. And I absolutely love doing that, because then I can see a real benefit. It's just not about just the company. It's how does it impact their life? And there's a lot of gratitude in doing that.
That is awesome. It's holistic and it's all encompassing instead of just one piece of the puzzle. But
that's right.
You're taking care of the entire picture.
Yes, yes. And, and I have support. That it's not just me. As you have your team, we have a team behind us. But understanding all those aspects to really, as you said, do a holistic approach, I think is way more valuable. And then bringing in the necessary pieces, whether they're part of my team or working with other team members like yourself and even other colleagues, other advisors. Because I think the best way we can help our clients is to really identify what would help them the most. And I don't have to have all the answers, but I do have to have the right team players in place so that we can all work together to make sure we're getting the best benefit for our client.
Fantastic. Having resources and the people with the knowledge is part of being part of your team is that much more essential to taking care of the clients that you serve.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We both have that commonality. We both have that ideology. So
which is why I love working with you.
Yeah, and the thing is that not all CPAs have that type of mentality, which is unfortunate.
That's very true. Yeah, because it's funny. My firm is small. I have a concierge business, a boutique service. I'm not a big firm, and when I'm compared to other smaller firms, very different. Most small firms are more about quantity and just cranking out tax returns, and that's what they do. They do the bookkeeping and the tax returns. And we, of course, provide those services, but that's not really my specialty. If that's all somebody wants, I would send them to another CPA. We're more about an overall consulting approach and that holistic. And I think that's just way more valuable and way more fun for me, quite honestly. So
fantastic. So speaking of some of the common elements, so can you share with us some of the common tax planning strategies that small businesses may overlook but should consider? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, sure. Everyone's different, but there are some commonalities. I mean, a lot of times just utilizing more than one entity is useful. If someone's
absolutely
owning property, for example, each property should have its own LLC. That's basic planning, not only from a tax perspective, but also from an asset protection standpoint. Mainly because, real estate on paper is losses generally. And so if you were to sell one of those properties and you hold it with other entities, those losses get trapped. So by keeping it in separate entities, you're able to release the losses when you sell a property and offset it against other income. That can be quite useful.
Absolutely.
And multiple entities could be for other reasons. When we deal with entertainment folks, I deal with a lot with in Hollywood, film, TV, and also now some sports athletes as well. Cool. A lot of times intellectual property, that IP should be held in a separate entity and leased back, much like you would lease back a building. So you've got a revenue stream, you can control where those expenses are, you can funnel it down to different percentages to different entities. You can utilize trusts, you can utilize other family limited partnerships, and really control where the income is landing, both from a federal and state, because people have multiple states sometimes are dealing with, of where you want that income to land and how you want it to be distributed. And then as well as the asset protection strategies that go along with that as well. Which ones are exposed and having multiple layers to protect yourself, whether it's from lawsuits or from your siblings. It depends on what your strategy needs to be. But it is tailored really specifically for your needs. What's most important to you? Usually my favorite question to ask a client is, what keeps you up at night? Because it's different for everyone.
That's a great question. Everybody's different.
Yeah, because what I think might be your biggest problem, you might not even worry about. So what really keeps you up? What is bothering you? And then I can go from there and then possibly point out other issues you might not have thought about. And a lot of it comes back to taxes, but not everything.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Business management services. Could you explain the concept of business management services that you provide and how it benefits, especially the high net worth clients that you serve and of course in the entertainment community?
Yeah, that's been a really fun part of my business. That's been in the last, I'd say somewhere around 8 to 10 years, we've been really delving into the entertainment. I love it. And, it's funny, business manager services, that was a phrase coined out in Hollywood, California. That's what they call it because every entertainer has an agent, a manager, and a business manager. Business manager, that's us. And we deal with everything financial, everything for them and their family. Everywhere else in the country, they call it family office services. So it's really the same idea where we handle everything. We down to paying their bills, which is really just it's a perk, if you will. It's certainly not the point. Some people think, oh, I don't need someone to pay my bills. Well, you shouldn't. You shouldn't need someone to pay your bills. But the idea is more that we look at it again from a holistic perspective where they can focus on their art, whether it's producing TV, acting, or it's an athlete on the field. They need to be able to focus on what they're doing. They need to understand and have full transparency of where their money is and what's happening. And I feel very strongly about that, about teaching people, not doing it for them, but teaching them, guiding them, training them of how to manage their money. So we become the quarterback behind them to help them manage their overall life. So it's not just about filing taxes. It's about which accounts should I set up? Should there be investments? Should there be savings? All about buckets. What are those timelines on those buckets? What are we trying to accomplish? Do we want to own a home for your own, well, you're moving around the country, you're filming in different places. We might have one home as your retreat and then utilize other vacation homes. You could maybe rent them out. You could do timeshares. You want a boat, you want a plane, whatever these things lead to. But it's all
Awesome.
managed with assets. Because if you're not paying attention, and trust me, we all know, the famous stories about entertainers and athletes blowing through their money, paying for everybody around them and having nothing. So my job is to protect them from themselves, right? And have a plan and make sure their family's taken care of, they're taken care of. They can enjoy all these things, but not stupidly. Let's have a plan. Let's do it gradually. Let's make sure that you actually have what you want and that you're protected properly. So I absolutely love working with the entertainers because I feel like I can help them get to where they want to be in a responsible manner.
Sounds great. So speaking of that, complexities of entertainment finance and entertainment accounting, what are some of the unique financial challenges that entertainers face? And how do you address them in your practice?
I think dealing with the states are probably the most complicated part of it.
Sure.
Because filing in the different states, I mean, you think about an entertainer that does a tour that hits all the different states, or an athlete that plays ball that goes all over, that's a lot. And so what do? Do you get paid by W-2? Do you actually file in all those different states? Well, it depends. There's no answer to all of it, but you have to be eligible to be doing business in all these different states. You have to register in a lot of the states. Where is your actual residency? And then when it comes to doing the contract, that's really up to the agent. That's not me, but I'm going to work with the agent to make sure the language is proper so that we're not triggering extra tax. So, I work with the agents and the managers to make sure that that is in there. Because a lot of times they're better off as a W-2, which is very counterintuitive because everybody wants to be the contractor, be in control and have a company and have a flow through. That's not necessarily the right answer. So it depends. Unfortunately, that's the answer a lot of times. It depends. But dealing with the states on a tax basis is probably one of the more challenging issues we deal with. And then you throw into the international compact. They're filming a lot in Canada these days, especially after COVID.
Yeah, sure.
And and overseas in Europe, they film a lot. So you have to know. I don't know those international laws, but I do know other accountants in those areas that know how to file and to reciprocate so that we can then file for foreign tax credits to make sure that they're taken care of. So
awesome.
Another component that's important as well.
So with the ever-changing tax laws, what advice do you have for individuals and business owners to stay compliant while minimizing their tax burden?
Hire a good accountant.
And
hey, I know
Brickell and Company, right? Yes.
That's right.
The person I'm interviewing
you
today.
Surround yourself by good advisors. You know that. You have to have good advice. I don't think it's appropriate for anyone making any decent money to try to do it themselves. I think is dangerous. And I think it's irresponsible. But also going to the other extreme, hiring someone to do everything for you and not be aware is also dangerous. So I think there's
Sure.
a balance. And I think it's important to be transparent and to be fully involved in the education of your own money, of what happens, but surrounding yourself with great like-minded people that can really help you and have your best interests at heart. That's the most important, I think. And it gives you peace of mind. You have to have peace of mind.
Fiduciary. Being a
Exactly.
fiduciary to the clients that you serve.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about technology and accounting. How has technology changed in the way that you provide accounting and financial services today? Are there any particular tools or software that you utilize or would recommend?
There's so much out there. It's a good question, and I think I don't want to come across to say like, oh, I'm an expert in every software, because that's completely impossible. And I'm sure there's new things out there that I'm not aware of. So one thing I will say is I'm always open to new technology.
Okay.
Change scares a lot of people, especially accountants. A lot of accountants are set in their ways and
Yes.
they want it a certain way. I'm not like that, because I know there's always new things coming out. And I think it's important to always have your eyes open to see new technologies. Having said that, I go to the basics. I mean, QuickBooks has been known for business. To me, that's just very simple. A non-accountant can use it. It's basically a glorified checkbook, super easy. And if you run it properly, it's quite useful. You have very many useful reports. I think a lot of people use it. Nothing wrong with that. I have to say the online version, I'm not a fan, but I know it's easier for most taxpayers and most people, non-accountants. So we deal with that. Outside of that, I mean, looking at your investments, looking at your banking, looking at all that, another reason why I think that's overwhelming for a lot of people is because there is not one software that pulls it all together. I've talked about creating it a few times. I've actually gone down the road of actually implementing and trying to put together an app that does that. Maybe someday will actually happen, but it is a fantastic idea. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone does it. And I think many have tried. It's very difficult to do. And I think really it comes down to just being cognizant of where your different portals are and maintaining them. I don't know that anyone will ever do it as well as, just being mindful and being on top of it. Again, it comes back to the professionals that you trust.
Of course, absolutely. So there seems to be in the industry that there is a shortage of qualified and experienced CPAs.
Gosh, there really is. Yeah, it's scary.
Yes, exactly. So what advice would you give to someone that's looking to potentially pursue a career in the accounting field and eventually become a certified public accountant?
I mean, I think it's a great field because it's the basis of all business. Business cannot operate without it. There is a serious need. And I think for a long time, it's been out of whack as far as the requirements and time commitment and all that is expected of an accountant. And the money has not been commensurate, for a lot of
Wow.
deterring kids from, that's why kids are not going into it, because it's not enough money and it's too many hours and they've watched our generation handle it terribly. And we've done that. So now I feel a shift. Money is coming up. Employers are realizing you have to scale back and not do those kind of hours. So I think that is naturally happening in the industry. And I think that consolidation and that change is going to be a great place to be because it's going to be needed. So I think if a student going into accounting right now, to me, they could write their own ticket. A sharp person could really do anything in the field and write their own ticket because it's so needed. And the people employing, they don't know how to deal with it.
Sure.
So it's a great opportunity right now.
So in terms of, in terms of challenges that CPAs like yourself with your own practice, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as not only a CPA, but a CPA business practitioner? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? Anything, whether it's recruitment, whether it's
staffing. It's 100% it's staffing. It's finding good people to do the work. And I hate to say this, but one of the solutions that I'm doing now is outsourcing. Philippines, India has for a while. I've done business with India, and it's hit or miss. And honestly, I've found a better product coming out of the Philippines. I think their work ethic is a little bit better. And it's easier
And they
to
speak English.
speak English.
Yep,
And,
which
you
is
know, I found
important.
some good people that I trust, which, you know, look, that's hard to do. I would much prefer to hire American and students
Sure.
and people that want to stay into the business and move up. And so I'm always looking. But for now, that is the biggest challenge. And the solution is going to another country right now, which is a terrible solution. But, you know, life goes on. I hope it changes.
You have to do what you have to do. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I have a son going into college now. I have another daughter in college. I'm pushing them both, trust me, to not only for them to explore and realize that it's not only very specified. Like accounting doesn't mean you have to do public accounting and you have to do tax and you have to do what I'm doing. There's a million things you can do in accounting because all businesses need that expertise and that understanding and that knowledge. So I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity. And so I tell all their friends, I talk to everyone I can through them of how important it is that, you know, good, sharp people that have the, you know, the knowledge and understanding of math and can understand accounting, that they really should embrace it and help businesses because we need it.
So let's talk about that. What trends do you see shaping the future of accounting and financial planning in the next, say, the next couple of years or the next few years?
Well, AI for sure. And I think that's part of what's happening because we have such a shortage. AI is going to replace a lot of people. So you're either going to be part of that movement where you're helping to design it because you're the brains behind it, or you're going to be doing those other, you know, needed services that is helping to guide it. Because, you know, AI, I don't think it can only spit out what you've put in, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Like
Sure.
you have to, so you know, you still need that expertise of the advisor to be able to look like we started our conversation about the holistic approach, to sit with a client and understand truly what their needs are and understand the emotional aspect of it and what's important to that person. And then, you know, utilize AI to help you come up with solutions and implement. But
Sure.
you couldn't expect, I don't think realistically, for that person just to sit in front of a computer, type out what they think they need, not having that understanding or knowledge, and expect to get the right results. It's just not going to happen. So I do see utilizing AI and eliminating probably lower end positions if we don't start getting, you know, kids to fill them, and really utilizing that going forward. But that's a trend that I see. The advisors are still needed, but you need people going into the field to really understand it because that is such a needed service.
Okay, so that brings me to maybe some personal experiences that you may be able to share with us. What are some of the one or two memorable cases where you find your financial advice significantly impacting your client's life? Maybe you could give a good one, a positive one, and maybe not such a positive one, maybe something that didn't go right.
Well, okay, I'll start with a negative and finish on a positive. How's that? So
Wonderful, fantastic.
Because I do say there's certainly been plenty, well, not plenty, but I'd say a couple here and there where you know, a client is just not coachable, right? You can give them the best advice that you can, kind of, you know, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, and I've spent a lot of time on there was one client in particular, actually two this happened with, where I tried my best to keep them from hurting themselves, right? Giving the best advice I can, trying to put them on a budget, trying to teach them different financial things. And just over and over, just it wasn't happening. And, you know, constantly making bad decisions and bad choices. You know, and eventually I realized like, okay, you know, it gets to a certain point, I can't help, I have to separate because it will reflect upon me. And if I can't get them to do what they really need to do, they're never going to. And so there's no point in them paying me because they're not listening anyway. So
Wow.
when that happens, I think, you know, it's best just to, you know, unfortunately, then it becomes a therapy issue.
Sure.
So
Sure.
those are the, you know, and that's happened a couple of times. And unfortunately, entertainers, that does happen a little bit more often than in most industries. And, you know, sometimes you're your own worst enemy. So that has happened and I've watched it. And I'm one thing I will say, I've gotten old enough and been doing this long enough where I recognize it a lot sooner and I don't go down that path anymore. So it's very important to have that reciprocal personalities, if you will, where you know that you're going to mesh with someone, you know that they really want the advice, they want to make the changes, they need the coaching, and they really, there's a lot of gratitude, and those are the most satisfying. And that has happened where I have helped people get into a place where they're so much more financially sound as a result of steps we've taken, gotten them out of debt, built up, savings account, built up the investments, helped them buy their house. And, they have me out of the house and just like overwhelmed with gratitude and introducing me to everyone around them. Like, oh my God, if it wasn't for Jill, we wouldn't even have this house. And, introducing me to everyone they know, you have to, hire her, she can help you too. And, those kind of situations. And that's happened a few times now where it's just overwhelmingly wonderful. And to be able to help people like that is, like I said, it's just so much gratitude that I love to be in this position that I can do that and really feel that.
But you're providing that value add service, and it's fulfilling internally for you to be able to help them in such a positive impact.
Such a meaningful way. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
And as a client referral is probably the biggest compliment anyone can ever pay me.
Absolutely. 100%. I absolutely agree with you on that. So with your diverse responsibilities, how do you maintain a work-life balance for yourself personally, especially in a demanding industry such as in finance and dealing with entertainers in the finance world?
It's a constant struggle. I mean, as it is with everybody. I don't have all the answers on that one. I do my best. I know it's important to have a work-life balance. I know that for my staff. I know that for me. I know it for my clients. And we're constantly trying to rebalance that. You have to do it. And fortunately, I've got great staff to be able to rely on that can fill in, allow me to unplug when I need to. And, with my clients, I insist, when I see they're working way too much for a while, it's like, all right, you really need a break. We got to go do something, And so I think it's super important because, I mean, in any field and anything you do, getting that work-life balance is so important. And doing either one too much is going to kill you. It's like
absolutely,
have
short
that.
life, short lifespan.
Exactly, and everything is an ebb and flow, and it just you constantly have to manage that. But I think it's a good thing as long as you're in tune. To me, communication is the most important thing. Again, whether it's with my clients or with my staff, even with my kids, whatever, my parents, everyone has all kinds of things in their lives that is constantly pushing and pulling. And so keep things in check and in balance so that you can be good to yourself and those around you, I think is super important.
And two more questions. Who is your ideal client?
That's a good question. Let's see, my ideal client. Well, I am definitely more focused in the entertainment industry than any others. So, and entertainment, like I said, could be film, TV. I deal with directors, writers, producers, some actors as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Any of them famous?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to ask you the names.
Yeah, we're not going to go into names.
We can't name drop there. But yes, that's fantastic.
No A-list. So, I mean, you'll know some, you wouldn't know others.
Okay.
I do prefer more that work behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. Just it ends up being a little bit more business-like and stable because the work is just more stable. Producers and directors, that's kind of where I started in that. I am also dealing with some athletes, and that's a completely different realm.
What sports?
Well. Football and basketball. So NFL,
great.
NBA. Yeah.
Oh, NBAs and NFLs.
Yeah.
All right. You've got some.
Yeah. So my
producing
client,
people.
I would say, is in entertainment that is just starting to take that rise. That is just about on the cusp of making it, needs the advice, doesn't know what they're doing, starting to come into money, starting to get that fame, and really needs to get a grip of how to structure, how to protect, how to move forward responsibly, and how to manage. That's an ideal client for me because I can teach them, I can guide them, I can help them, and take the ride with them, which I love.
Fantastic. So, besides working with your clients that you probably love because you're so passionate about helping them, how important is it for you to be involved in community involvement in your business, and what initiatives are you helping or are you passionate about in the community involvement realm?
As far as like philanthropic, that kind of thing.
Yes,
You
all
know,
of that.
I'm
Yes.
sad to say I haven't done a lot.
Okay.
Because I've just been so busy running my practice and raising my kids. I have an 18 and 20-year-old.
Okay.
And I just feel like, and I have my parents I take care of, my sister, my staff, my clients. I really haven't had a whole lot of time. I will absolutely support a good cause, but I haven't really been on the forefront of it. I was heavily involved in FICPA and AICPA for years when I first started my career. I was on the board of those organizations for a while and helped run it.
Sure.
I helped some of the scholarship funds, again, pulling students into accounting and that kind of thing. So I've supported a lot over the years as I continue to. And now in the entertainment, we kind of help, whether it's dealing with the unions, the Screen Actors Guild and the Directors Guild and all that. And again, just providing support, but not in any kind of leadership role. I've got my hands full and I don't want to take on too much, but I certainly support it and feel like I'm helping the community by helping those give back to their communities. And a lot of my entertainers do that, and we support their missions.
So where can people find you?
Well, I have an office in Boca Raton. I have
Okay.
an office in Los Angeles. And my Instagram handle, I think is what you call it, Brickell
Sure.
and the word "and" is spelled out. So Brickell and Company
Okay.
is my Instagram. And I'm on LinkedIn.
Fantastic.
I have a phone number too. People still use that sometimes. Yeah.
Well, perhaps you could give your email address. That'll work.
Sure. Yes. Well, Jill@brickellgroup.com. So,
Perfect. Perfect.
and that is the best way to reach me. I'm constantly on my email and my phone. I'm very accessible, except of course when I need that balance, life balance, and turn it off. But
when you need to disconnect.
Exactly. But I think I'm pretty good about communicating and keeping in touch and being accessible when my clients.
Well, you and I have met over 20 years ago.
That's right.
And we happened to meet up again at the FICPA event conference last year.
Right,
and
right.
So it was great to be able to get reconnected back with you.
Absolutely.
And of course, 20 years, 2 decades of life and life changes. I'm just so happy that we were able to get reconnected back again.
Me too. Yeah, we met at the insurance class. So,
yes.
Yep. Life
and health insurance.
Yeah. So
yes,
obviously a big part of financial planning. So
absolutely.
I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you. And crazy 20 years later, here we are.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast. A big thank you for Jill H. Brickell for offering her extensive expertise and insights into tax consulting and financial planning. If you're interested in learning more about Jill's service or how she can assist you with your financial needs, visit www.brickellgroup.com. That's brickellgroup.com. We appreciate your support and look forward to having you with us for our next episode. I'm David T. Yu, airline pilot, founder, and wealth advisor at DTY Wealth Planning Solutions. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And until next time, keep your financial goals in focus and your strategies sharp.
Thank you for flying with us on today's episode of Jet Setting Wealth Advisory. If you enjoyed your journey through the fiscal skies with David T. Yu, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and keep your financial knowledge soaring. For more insights and personalized advice, visit us at www.dtywealthplanningsolutions.com and connect with David directly